هذا نذير من النذر الأولى أزفت الآزفة.
بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وآله وصحبه أجمعين ثم ما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So we're just carrying on from the last session that we did previously when we talked about how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam we just gave an introduction to this, what happened after he received the first revelation. And if you recall, after Angel Jibreel came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the beginning of the surah, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq was revealed. And then we just mentioned previously, an introduction, just how this is not all by chance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has planned for this moment exactly to come at this time, and it's still, it's like still a bit of a shocking experience for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he had learned to trust his heart, because do you remember like the true dreams that he used to have? He learned to trust his heart that yes, this is actually a real experience and this is something, and how he was used to being alone in the cave, and how we talked about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was, always at the service of others. So it's an appropriate time today to talk about, just continue, as inshallah, we're beginning Ramadan as well, inshallah. Firstly, what was the age of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam here in the cave of Hira when the Jibreel alayhi salam, the angel Jibreel, came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And, for the first time, how old was the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And this was, we know, this was during the 40th year of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life, right? He was 40 years old at this time. But there is actually some discussion amongst the scholars. They say, was he a bit younger? Was he a bit older? Some say, no, he was actually 36 or 37 years old. But some say, no, he's 42 or 43 years old. And these are like minor positions. Like, it's not common. What's the reason why there's a difference? Why do some people say he's like 42, 43? Why do some people say he was 36, 37? Even though we understand he was 40 years old. So the reason is why there's differences is because after he became a prophet, after he received the first revelation, there was a period, and we're going to talk about this going forward, of about 2.5 to 3 years where everything was quiet. It was very silent. Like, just you can imagine now, Jibreel alayhi salam has come to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi has been, the start has been revealed. And after this, there's a period of 2 or 3 years where nothing happens. There's a big gap, and all of a sudden there's like silence. And you'll see, inshallah, in the coming sessions, there wasn't a lot of preaching going on. There wasn't dawah going on at this stage. Immediately after Surah Al-Alaq was revealed, there was no revelation at all, during this time, because the Prophet ﷺ, he was given time to fully, like take on this role, embrace it, this experience. Based on this, some scholars say that the Prophet ﷺ was 42 or 43 years old when the revelation began, because when he became a prophet, they don't count this first encounter with Jibreel alayhi salam. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. They count after 2 or 3 years. When afterwards, when the revelation started to come down regularly, in 2 or 3 years' time, when he's going to be 42, 43. So they count that period, right? You with me? Others say he was 36, 37, or 38. Because why? Because they start counting from the time he started to go to the cave of Hira. So even before he became a prophet, like we mentioned that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to go to the cave of Hira, for about 2 or 3 years before revelation, because he used to go into seclusion, quietly meditate, before revelation, 2 or 3 years. So some scholars say this is the period where we count the start of revelation, when he's 36 or 37, when he started to go to the cave and meditate. Even though when he was 40, that's when Jibreel alayhi salam, he came down for the first revelation. So you with me? So still, there's some differences, but it all sort of makes sense together when you look at it. So from the very first time he started going to the cave of Hira, some say that's when prophethood began. So just to summarize this, there's three stages. There's 3 stages of revelation, and these are small differences, but it's all the same. And these 3 stages have been identified in the revelation. What are the 3 stages we just talked about? Number one is a period before the first revelation. This is the true dreams that the Prophet ﷺ used to have. So, about 2 or 3 years before revelation began. Second stage, the moment itself, when Jibreel alayhi salam, he came to the Prophet ﷺ, He squeezed him. He told him to read and Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. This is the actual start of revelation. This is the second stage. And then the third stage is, we just talked about, afterwards, there's a period of silence after this for about 2 or 3 years. After revelation, this was time for the Prophet ﷺ to fully recover from the experience. This is the third stage. After, there's a quiet period for 2 or 3 years. And then after that, the revelation came down regularly. So these are the three stages. So this explains why some scholars, they just differ on when officially did prophethood begin, because there's three stages, like we just said. So some scholars say it's the first time he went to the cave of Hira. Others say it's exactly when he started. It's when he started to preach openly. But in reality, the truth lies in the middle, right? The first time the Prophet ﷺ, he went to the cave of Hira, but when he was 37, 38, he was preparing for this experience. The first revelation then came down and he was 40 years old. Then a couple of years later, 2 or 3 years later, when the command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came, when he's ready, then he started to openly give dawah when he's 42, 43, like in public, which brought a whole new set of challenges. So this is what we understand. So the actual revelation, we know, came down when he's 40 years of age, right? And this is what we understand. And we just move on. What is the date of revelation? So what is the day, firstly? What day did Jibreel alayhi salam he come to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the cave of Hira? What day do we know, understand? This started on the day of Monday. This was a Monday. And this is well established and documented through many different narrations and hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam he was asked about fasting on Mondays, because he was very particular, he used to fast on Monday. What did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say? He says, "This is the day I was born." That's why I used to fast. This is the day I was born, and this is the day I received the first revelation. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. So this was a Monday. So that's why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to fast on a Monday. So we know this. So, it's a good idea. When it's your day you were born, your birthday, it's a good idea to, the sunnah is to fast on the day, right? To follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to do this. And this was a Monday, right? So this is when Jibreel alayhi salam came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What month was it? What month is about to start? The month of the first revelation, we understand, and this is what the vast majority of scholars say, the first revelation occurred in Ramadan, And as evidence, Ibn Ishaq in the Seerah, he directly correlates this ayah, and we understand this ayah, right, of the Quran. Shahru Ramadan, alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran. The month of Ramadan is the one in which the Quran was sent down, in Surah Al-Baqarah 2185. In the tafsir of this ayah, there's a discussion. So, this ayah, which says the Quran was revealed, was sent down in Ramadan. Some scholars say that this ayah actually refers to the Quran being sent down to the lowest heaven, Sama Dunya, because before being revealed gradually, so some scholars say yes, the Quran was sent down to the lowest sky in Ramadan, the lowest sky, and then from the lower sky, it was gradually revealed to the Prophet ﷺ over 23 years. When Jibreel alayhi salam, he took it over 23 years. That's what they interpret this to say. When it was revealed, they say it was revealed in Ramadan to the lower sky. That's, because we understand the Quran was first in the Lawhil Mahfuz, in the preserved tablet. From there, it was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ over time. But this, that's one way you can look at it. But it does not rule out the fact that the actual first revelation, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, this also happened in Ramadan. Because Ibn Ishaq in his Seerah, he says, with this ayah, Shahru Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran. This is the first revelation. That's what Ibn Ishaq says. This is in the month of Ramadan. So Ibn Ishaq says, this is when the Quran was sent down to the Prophet ﷺ in the cave of Hira. This was during the month of Ramadan, and most scholars, they agree with this. This occurred in Ramadan. What was the night of the first revelation? Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. And this famous ayah, and in the month of Ramadan, there's a night, Laylatul Qadr. This night, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. This night is when the Quran started, the revelation started, and what night was this? So, what was the exact night? And again, there's different opinions regarding the exact night of the first revelation. What was the exact night? Some say it's the 14th night, some say it's the 17th night, some say it's the 21st night, some say it's the 27th, right? You know that because there's a difference every year. It's like which night is Laylatul Qadr, and there's a difference. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows best. But Ibn Ishaq himself, along with many other classical scholars, the Seerah, they have this opinion that it was the 21st night of Ramadan. It's the 21st night of Ramadan when the Quran was revealed. And there's different opinions, like this night changes every year. So there's obviously, can go into detail here. And there's a hikmah, a reason why the Prophet ﷺ, when he's going to tell the people, his companions, the Sahaba, about what night it is, and he forgot because I think you know the story because there's a couple of people fighting, but there's a reason for that because we don't focus all our attention to one night, and you are constant in your worship towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during the last 10 nights. But the classical scholars say, it's the 21st night. Allahu alam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. But it's something that, we know that every year you try and find this night. Okay, so just talking about this in Ramadan. So the thing is, Ramadan is very appropriate that we're speaking. Just think, because since we started the Seerah sessions, it's been what, 84, 85 sessions, right? And then this is the way sometimes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He plans, because He plans, qaddara fahada. He's the one that plans precisely and He guides. And then we're just having this session now in the Seerah. This is the time when the Quran started to be revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the month of Ramadan. So this is why Ramadan is so important for us because we're just going into Ramadan. SubhanAllah, this is, a good, it's all coming together at the right time. And for example, some countries, and I think we've talked about this previously, they have like a special time when the country, like an Independence Day or something, like 14th of August, like Pakistan, right? India's is 15th of August, like one day after. But in every year, they have a celebration. It's the 14th of August. This is our Independence Day. This is like our event. As Muslims, our day, like you say, inauguration day is when our significant day, our special month is the month of Ramadan because this is when Jibreel alayhi salam, he came to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he became a prophet, a messenger, and that is when like the face of the humanity all changed. And this is why Ramadan is so special. So if you every year we understand why Ramadan is special. The fasting and the Sawm, that's that's like an amazing thing, but that's secondary. That's secondary. The most important reason why Ramadan is so special, because like we mentioned the ayah, Shahru Ramadan, alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran. It's when the Quran was revealed. Ramadan is really a celebration. It's a celebration we have of 30 days of the Quran. That's it. The Quran being revealed, you listen to the Quran, you go to the masjid, you Taraweeh, from start to finish, you hear the Quran is beautiful, the environment, and this reconnects you to the Quran, Ramadan. And this is like a celebration and it's like an amazing atmosphere. And this is why, for us as Muslims, Ramadan is so special. Take it like for the first time, just like the Prophet ﷺ, all alone in the cave of Hira, in the quietness of night, he received the first revelation, and this connection with the Quran started. Just like for us, it should be our connection to the Quran is like starting all over again in this month. It's a celebration. This is what makes us Muslims, right? It's the fact that Ramadan is is our inauguration, the Muslims, and that's why it's so special. And then we understand, the reasons why Ramadan, the benefit of Ramadan, what's the reason, the benefit of the fasting, what's the reason why we fast? It's then we understand because is to gain taqwa, the fact that the halal is cut off, so you can't eat or drink. Obviously, you can't do the halal things in Ramadan, and that means if you can stop yourself from the halal, then surely outside Ramadan, you can stop yourself from the haram as well, right? It becomes very easy. It's a good training program so we know all of this. But just look at it from the angle of the seerah, right? Ramadan, look at it from this angle, from the time when the Prophet ﷺ, he received the Quran. That's why it's so special. It's our day, right? It's our inauguration, a month of the celebration of the Muslims. So that's how we can take it. And just to finish off, just a couple of more points, just because the thing is, while we're talking about the seerah and the life of the Prophet ﷺ, we always come across interesting lessons. Interesting lessons. So we said, scholars say, we talked about this ayah. Shahru Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran, that the Quran was revealed in Ramadan. Scholars say this ayah refers to the Quran being sent down to the lowest heaven, like the Sama' Dunya, before being revealed to the Prophet ﷺ over 23 years. Because the Quran was originally sent in the Lawhil Mahfuz, like we said, the preserved tablet, and then it was sent down gradually, as and when needed, from Jibreel alayhi salam to the Prophet ﷺ. So you can just imagine, like what happened was the whole Quran, there's a whole book, like there's a whole book of the Quran, is sent down to the lowest heaven, Lawhil Mahfuz, and from there, Jibreel alayhi salam used to come, take bits of the Quran, just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructed him, from the lowest heaven to the Prophet ﷺ. And the first few ayat which he gave to the Prophet ﷺ, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. He took it from the Lawh al-Mahfuz to the Prophet ﷺ in the month of Ramadan, and then that was it. And then there's a period of like 2.5 years of quietness, and after that, regular revelation used to come down from the Lawh al-Mahfuz right down to the Prophet ﷺ, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he instructed. So that's what we're talking about. Over time, then the Quran was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ. But it does not rule out the fact that the first revelation, like we said, was also given to Prophet ﷺ in Ramadan, right? Are you with me? So the fact that the whole book was revealed, was sent down to Lawh al-Mahfuz, that was in Ramadan, that's fine. Even the individual ayat, which were sent to the Prophet ﷺ, the first ayat, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, that was also in Ramadan. So that's what we're saying. So what we gather, there's a rule here. Like I'm going to just give you this just so you have some appreciation. It's like a big topic, but this is just like some basic. Don't restrict the meaning of the Quran. So a simple rule in, when you're doing tafsir, which is interpreting the Quran, is a simple rule. And this is a side note, like we're saying, it's another like lesson we learned from the Seerah, that like we're talking about the ayah of the month of Ramadan being the one in which the Quran was sent down, when the language of the Quran is general, when it's general, we don't restrict its meaning unless there's clear evidence. There might be some hadith, narrations, or historical incidents that refer to specific events, but as long as the language of the Quran is general, we don't limit its meaning to just like one specific meaning. For example, I'll give you an example. If you know this ayah, so the ayah we're talking about, okay, Shahru Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran. The month of Ramadan is the one in which the Quran was sent down. It's general, isn't it? Like a general ayah. So based on this, you can take this as, yes, the Quran was sent down in the Lawh al-Mahfuz, right? In the preserved tablet, in the sky of the dunya. We can take that meaning, and we can take the meaning that the Quran was also revealed to the Prophet ﷺ as well, like in Ramadan. We can take both meanings. So do you understand the difference? But the ayah is general. It's general. The month of Ramadan, the one in which the Quran was sent down. So we can take both meanings. We don't just take one meaning, but we can take more than one. So yeah, and I'll give you a practical example of this. Let's say, for example, you're reading an ayah from Surah Al-Furqan. Surah Al-Furqan, it talks about one person on Judgment Day who's going to bite his arm like this. He's going to bite his arm because he's going to be so regretful on Judgment Day. He's going to eat his own arm, not eat, but he's going to bite it like this out of regret. He's going to be so regretful. He's going to say, I wish I had gone with the Prophet. I wish I had taken up the Prophet ﷺ's mission. I wish I had joined him. I wish I had followed the Prophet. He's going to be so like regretful. He's going to curse himself. He's going to say, I wish I had never taken this guy as my friend. I wish I had never taken her as my friend. I wish I had never taken that person as a friend because that person led me to the hellfire, right? This person is going to, on Judgment Day, he's going to bite his arm. He's going to regret so much. There's a narration, hadith, that says this is talking about Umayyah bin Khalaf and Abu Jahl. These two people. These two people who are the enemies of the Prophet ﷺ. Umayyah bin Khalaf was a very close friends with Abu Jahl. And one time, Umayyah bin Khalaf actually considered accepting Islam. He went and spoke to his best friend. Who's his best friend? His childhood buddy, Abu Jahl, right? Abu Jahl and Umayyah are best friends. And he said, what do you think, Abu Jahl? I'm kind of like starting to get convinced about Islam. What do you think Abu Jahl said? Did he say, yes, good idea, go ahead? No. Abu Jahl said, don't even dare make that mistake. That's terrible. How can you even think about that? How can you think about accepting Islam? So Umayyah bin Khalaf, his close friend, what did he do? He listened to his best friend Abu Jahl and he gave in to the pressure. He did not accept Islam. As a result, this guy Umayyah, right, even Abu Jahl, Umayyah, he died without faith. On Judgment Day, scholars say Umayyah bin Khalaf, he's going to experience some severe regret because of this decision. He's going to be the one biting his arm like this. Oh, I wish I'd taken the Prophet ﷺ away with him. I wish I had not taken this guy Abu Jahl as my friend. Do you understand? This is an example of general of a specific meaning. But this ayah, this narration is talking about Umayyah bin Khalaf and Abu Jahl, but there's a point. This ayah, like we talked about, you know, does it mention their names? Does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, oh, Abu Jahl, Umayyah is going to be the one who's going to be biting his arm? No, he doesn't. This ayah is general, right? It could apply to anybody who chooses the wrong friends, anybody who follows bad company and who regrets it, anybody who regrets not being with the Prophet ﷺ. This ayah could refer to anybody, isn't it? Are you with me? It doesn't just have to refer to Umayyah and Abu Jahl, but it could refer to anybody. So we don't restrict the meaning of the ayah just to refer to Umayyah. Are you with me? Does that make sense? So this ayah can refer to anybody, who's any person who's biting his arm, saying, I wish I hadn't taken this bro as my friend, because he like guided me to the hellfire. It could be anybody. So we keep the meaning of the Quran open and we can apply it to all people and all times. And I just wanted to mention that because we're talking about the ayah, Shahr Ramadan, alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran, where the Quran was revealed. So we talked about this, right? Because this is a part of the miracle of the Quran, by the way, that it can be speaking. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks multiple things at the same time. And some people try to be clever with their words and say something has two meanings at once. You get people who are quite clever. You can say something which has two meanings at once. But when somebody does it, they feel so proud. They say, I thought I meant this thing, but actually I meant that thing. But human beings, if they're capable of saying two things at the same time, what about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And the point is, this is like a taster, that this Quran is far more in depth and amazing and far more eloquent. So that's the beauty of the Quran, by the way, the fact that, there's multiple meanings you can have from just one ayah and it applies to all people in all times. So just wanted to end on that, inshallah, just talking about this rule in tafsir. So we understand Ramadan, now this is the month where the Quran is sent down, the whole book, sent down to the Lawh al-Mahfuz, the lowest heaven. And in Ramadan, Jibreel alayhi salam, he took the ayah, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, on the instruction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he revealed it to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the month of Ramadan, where the classical scholars say is the 21st, but, Allahu alam. And this is when our special inauguration, the special month of the Muslims, it began, and this is the celebration of the month, which is starting, inshallah. It's like an amazing experience. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may He allow us to really regain a connection with the Quran during this month, and may He allow us to really benefit from this month, and may He allow us to really give us the understanding and the ability and allow us to follow the practices, the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك